It is officially the opening of the NBA season, and wow, what a big day it was. On this overtime edition of the Upshot Podcast, we're going to be talking about what happened on day one with the two big games that we had to kick everything off. Who was absent that we missed tonight because we were missing some very big personalities, and what we're excited about coming up in the next little bit, plus just some fun news that's going around the league. So let's dive in. Let's get hyped about day one of the NBA. If you did not get to watch the games or you missed some stuff, we're going to get you up to speed really, really fast so that you know exactly what the talk is going to be going into the rest of the week. Let's dive in. Let's do it.
This is the Upshot Podcast. We're about to break down the biggest moments in the NBA.
1-3! Tie game with 5 seconds remaining!
And why they matter now. This is the Upshot Podcast.
It is officially right at the end of good Lord, it is the end of the day officially. We're up late. Benny. We're up really late. It is about 12:30 on Wednesday morning. For us, we just got done watching the Lakers and well, I shouldn't even call it the Lakers game. Let's just be honest, but we'll get into that in just a minute. It was the clip show. So I am here with Nick Atkins tonight. I am Ben Atkins, and we are here to give you a real quick recap of what happened in the NBA today so that you've got it fast and you know exactly what happened going into the rest of this week with the NBA. So where do we start? Nick? I think that the big thing for me is we start with the games and, you know, kind of what was going on with all this stuff. It's been a big week. Over the last week, we have really had a lot of interesting stuff, whether it be the China stuff that's been going on, whether it be, you know, injuries that sort of tainted the first couple of games, which was tonight. There's a lot of things to discuss. First things first, we have to talk China, and we have to talk about LeBron. Going into this game tonight, I have to mention this, Nick. Did you realize that China did not broadcast any of the opening night games? And that's interesting.
Yeah, I did hear that. It sounds like they're digging their heels in a little bit. There was also, they had a quote, I think it was some representative from CCTV, which is probably some representative from the Chinese government, but they had some quote this past week about Adam Silver again, and that how he would have retribution coming to him and how it would be swift. I mean, it's nothing to laugh at. Don't get me wrong, but
it's not.
The comments are always so like, damn, that's strong whenever we hear them over here, but I think it's just normal over there. So yeah, well, it sounds like they're digging their heels in and whatever.
What bums me out the most is you have all these NBA fans in China who are pumped just like we are for the beginning of the season. And no NBA for you. And it's just rough. So
well, look, that's what you got to remember. You and I have gone back and forth over and over on this, and we're probably not done talking about it by any means. But
no.
The thing is, you've got to remember is that the NBA is still the best product, and that's what we have to offer. They've got to offer a ton of money, right? And so it's an impasse. There's no way around it, and it's either going to calm down and I'm sure Adam Silver is happy as anybody to get these games going tonight, just to maybe turn up, you know, some different storylines. Don't you agree?
Something else to talk about. Yeah,
exactly.
That kind of takes me into what happened tonight. We have two monster games, and we had a season preview a little while back, and we had our top games that we were the most excited about, and these two are on the list. And Raptors, Pelicans lead us out tonight, and then we've got Lakers and Clippers in the battle number one for LA. Mm-hmm. And wow, I just we walk into the Raptors Pelicans game, and I'm telling you, the first quarter, I'm like, this is sloppy basketball. I don't know about you.
Yeah. And some of that's part of, look, it's the season's just started. They may be, they're nervous. I think the Raptors had just gotten their rings, right? They had the ring ceremony prior to the game.
Which are the biggest rings of championship rings of all time.
Yeah, they're gigantic. Well, look, if you're Toronto and you're looking at the roster and you're like, I'm not sure we're going to be back here. You better make those damn things big.
Yeah,
because Kawhi's not getting his until he comes into town, and I'm not sure exactly when that is, but I'm not sure if they're repeating. But it was nice, and what a cool thing for Toronto. That is such a great basketball city. And
wow tonight, though.
Yeah.
Let me just go ahead and say this. And we had a couple guys. You were making fun of me earlier tonight. Of course, it was completely justified. But I was talking about, we were texting back and forth earlier in the evening when this game's going on, and I said it looks like Toronto still got the juice, and and you had to bust on me a little bit, and good reason. But that's what kind of happened. Is I was really excited about this game, and then kind of the wah-wah. We had the news that Zion is out. And, by the way, all of a sudden, we just had his surgery today, too.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, because I think this is really interesting as we get into talking about this game. Do you think that he actually re-injured his knee doing something, or do you think that they saw this injury from somewhere else? This injury has been there, and they just decided before we get into this and before he injures himself really badly, let's go take care of this problem? Or do you think that there was an actual – okay, so go ahead.
No, I think I do think there was an injury. I think, don't hold me to it, I think it was a preseason game against San Antonio. But look, he did this. I think he bumped knees with somebody in Summer League. And so he came out in Summer League. He played a game. I told you, I was out there. The place went nuts. There was literally 2 earthquakes that night. I don't think they had anything to do with Zion, but it was insane. And but he had bumped knees with somebody at some point out there. I believe it was a knee, and they just sat him out for the rest of the preseason. And whether those two things are related with what we've got going on now, I don't know. But it's an interesting thing you bring up, because they say he got hurt in this game, and he had like 20 and 10, 20 and 12 or something in that game. And there's nothing.
He played.
Yeah, he was playing lights out, and
he played good.
There was no injury or anything to indicate that you could see. Right, this is something that we found out on the back end. But as far as I've heard a few things. I've heard that it was the lateral meniscus, and that it was some sort of, I'm guessing, an arthroscopic repair.
Right.
I think what you're really asking is this something that's almost preventative, right? Like a pre-Tommy John thing for a pitcher. And honestly, you could absolutely be right. They don't want to screw this up, and they don't want to take a chance if they do an MRI on the knee and they see that there's something going on there, and it may not need to be fixed now, but it's going to need to be fixed later. Why not do it now? Right.
No, and I'm 100%. I love that. I love the whole taking care of your players. The thing that has always worried me about Zion is you watch the guy play and you can just watch his gait. Mm-hmm. And, like this is my past as a, chiropractor coming in, where I pay very close attention to how, people walk. And I always think it's very interesting. You watch certain people, how they move, especially in the NBA, because that's such an interesting sport in the way it wears and tears on your body. It's very interesting as to how he moves down the court. Yeah. It does not look like it's a motion that is good for his joints. And then, more importantly, how he lands from a jump.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. That's not to cut you off, but that's been the narrative. That's been the narrative with Zion, even coming out of college, is that he's 285 pounds and he's like every bit of 6'6". Okay. And so, is his body going to be able to stand up to it? I've been so reticent to it because I think he's just such a fun athlete to watch. And frankly, he's so fun to watch in part because he's so big and he moves like that. Right. But it's a valid criticism. I mean, what are you going to be able to say? We haven't technically started the NBA season yet. He moves like nobody we've seen. You could try to criticize his size and say, you know what? I don't think he's going to be able to last in the post at his height. Well, we know that's, at least we think that's BS, right? Just from what we've seen so far. And so I don't think it's going to be so much of an impediment to his game. It's going to be an impediment to his body. And not, is Zion fat? Is Zion overweight, or is he playing is he at a playing weight that is unhealthy for his joints for the way that he plays the game? That's the question.
Well, here's the thing. It's not like there's an ideal NBA, body type. Mm-hmm. You look at guys like Kevin Durant, and you're like, how does that guy even stand up?
How does he not snap in half, right?
Yeah, and you see, but that's the thing with Zion. It's never a question. I don't even think the guy's overweight. I just think this is who he is. However, that's not to say that body type isn't going to, work against him in the future. Right. And so this brings me to the game. And we get into this game, and I really don't, I kind of had in my head what this game was going to look like before we get to the actual game, but I had no clue when Zion being out. And I'm going to tell you something. After we got through that first quarter and a half of just messiness, this was a monster game to watch. Like, I was extremely impressed with the Pelicans without Zion. Like, they all around, they were moving the ball extremely well. They looked like a team that had been playing together for a while.
Well, some of those guys have been.
Some of those have been. Because it's Lakers South,
it's
right?
Lakers South, yeah. And it's so weird. You know, I was sitting with my girlfriend, we were watching the game, and the storyline last year was so heavy because remember, AD was trying to make this trade go through at the deadline, and it didn't happen.
Right.
But it got released, yada, 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 that you know, we're talking about a bunch of first-round picks and Ingram and Lonzo and Josh Hart. And it was so weird, even though we've seen it in the preseason. And obviously this trade happened pretty soon after the season was over. It was so weird to kind of see it validated from the other end. You know what I mean? Like I look at
absolutely.
So I look at the Lakers and I see AD in a Lakers jersey and I see LeBron in the Lakers jersey with him, and this was almost a little bit more jarring for me. Probably because I hadn't seen it, and it wasn't in my face as much because of all the press that the Lakers get. But those guys, you know, look, those are three huge pieces of that. Ingram had 22, 5, and 5 tonight, 5 boards, 5 assists. He played like 35 minutes. I want to get more of that in a second. Lonzo it was weird. Lonzo, I thought, was playing great, and he got sat. He was, I think he played 25 minutes tonight, and his second half minutes were way down, and I think it was because Hart comes off the bench and puts up a double-double, and he ends up playing longer than Lonzo. But just to stop there at that point for now, they look good, and those guys have played together. Those guys have played together for a few years, and so you've got a younger core there that already is familiar with each other. And man, New Orleans is going to be so fun to watch. I mean, even without Zion, they're a fun team to watch.
That's the thing. He gets back in there. You know, I think they're absolutely going to be fine until he gets back, number one. But yeah, I think once he gets back in, it's going to be great. The thing that was really interesting tonight is if you don't have two Toronto Raptors having career games, the Pelicans take this.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing. And the Pelicans without Zion take it. And this is the thing, you know, we've been talking the last couple of days about contracts. And so I want to focus on 2 contracts / extensions that we've run into.
Yeah.
You know, the first one is I want to focus on the one that I think you're the most upset about.
Lowry. You're talking about Kyle. Yeah,
I'm talking about Kyle Lowry, and like, you know, we have an interesting relationship with Kyle Lowry just because of, you know, where he's played in the past, and
Grizz
but, you know, he's a Grizz. He's part of the Grizz, but he gets out there tonight, and you have been really critical, rightly so. I'm behind you actually 100% on this because it doesn't make any sense to me. But you've been really critical of what they've done with him, and walk me through that contract that he got in the last little bit and your problem with it.
Sure. Well, see, I don't have I mean, again, Toronto's such a basketball town, and they love Lowry there. They love DeMar DeRozan too, before they got rid of him for Kawhi. I mean, it's a business, and they've usually been pretty good about making those calls. Just to be quick about it, my one issue with the Lowry contract, long story short, he was already on the books for $30 million this year. They signed him for $30 million the next year. And what I thought was going to happen is that Toronto is still likely a playoff team in the East. Okay. I don't know exactly what seed they'll be. I probably have them, to be honest with you, 5th or below.
Okay.
But they're still a playoff team. But, you know, they had a shot. You know, Toronto is a franchise, frankly, that's a little bit like Memphis in the way that you're not bringing in huge free agents. They didn't bring in Kawhi as a free agent, right? They had to do a trade. And so you're either going to draft or you're going to make trades. And the good thing about Lowry is, you know, he is a talented point guard. I think he's an up and down player, but he's definitely a good player, and he's in the upper echelon of point guards and has been. But, you know, I think he's like 31, 32. He's on the back end of his career, seemingly. Okay. And on an expiring contract this year, before you give him that extension, he's going to make $30 million this year. By the deadline, you've already paid him, you know, half of that. There's going to be a team that's on the playoff bubble or in the playoffs that's going to be looking for some help, who's probably going to give up something for that, right? Yeah. My issue with it and it doesn't mean that there won't be a team to do it anyway. I mean, look at Marc Gasol. We know that better than anybody, right? He was making close to 30 last year. He's making another 25 this year, and Toronto took it on, and it was clearly a good move on their part. But with this, it seems like if I was a team that was trying to get Lowry at the deadline, that extra $30 million that he just signed up an extension with Toronto, that would be an impediment. I would be much more excited about it if he only had 15, 20 mil to go on this contract. And then, look, if he plays well, we'll talk about a different contract, but I'd rather not be paying him 30 mil the next year. Now, with that said, come deadline time with the teams in it, right?
Right.
I understand it may not matter and they may just eat it. And if Lowry helps us get to the title, the guy clearly has a pedigree. He won a title last year. Then great.
Well, let's put it into a little microcosm tonight.
Sure.
He does not have a great night overall. If you look at the overall picture, the overall stats, he does not have a great night.
He had a terrible shooting night. I mean, he had a terrible
But if you're actually watching the game, this is the guy that hits the dagger for you.
He's a floor general.
This is the guy that I wonder if they're trying to somewhat, develop him into more of a leader, because I've seen Kawhi play this way, and I'm not comparing the two. So let's make sure, but I've seen him where it's just the fact that he's on the floor settles everyone else. And while we're talking about everyone else, he ends up hitting the dagger, has a terrible shooting night.
Yeah.
But what the hell happened? Where did Pascal Siakam come from tonight? Like, I love this guy.
Yeah.
I love watching him. He was monstrous in the playoffs last year. If you follow the trajectory of this guy and how he's worked his way up into the NBA to being a max contract guy now, which this is the other thing. He just signed this extension for 4 years for $130 million, which that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
When you think about his path and his trajectory, he gets signed for this. And this guy shows up tonight like a guy that you want to give a $130 million extension to for the next 4 years. He knocks out and he was on the path to a triple double tonight.
Oh,
Didn't hit it, had a double double.
Yeah.
But just the stats here, the guy's got 34 points of everybody that played tonight. He's at the very top. We'll talk about who was second next, because that's the real travesty in this whole contract situation. And tonight, he also has 18 rebounds.
Yeah.
18 rebounds. That's 8 more rebounds than anybody even close to him that played tonight. Not even in this game, but played tonight had. So he has 34 points and 18 rebounds. He's looking like a guy tonight, and who knows what he's going to do the rest of the season. I don't think we're going to have nightly repeats of this, but you never know.
This is the idea. But this is the idea with him, is that he's the guy. And again, this is somebody they drafted, I believe. Okay, so I mean, he's a homegrown guy. He was playing alongside Kawhi last year. He would have big games like this last year, but they were not few and far between. But they were sporadic. Okay, so he'd be one of those guys that you would look at of like, man, Pascal had an amazing night a couple nights ago, and then you're watching later in the week, you're like, is Pascal on the floor? You know what I mean? You would lose him every now and then, but this is why they paid him. I think it was a really smart move to pay him, because you want to keep this guy around. And again, he's going to be taking up the torch. Is he going to do 34 and 18 every night? I don't know, but he is going to be their main scoring option. And I think tonight, man, I mean, he had some pretty good defenders on him tonight. I think tonight was a really strong showing for him. And I think they've got a lot to feel good about with him.
I'm going to be really honest. I was extremely impressed, not necessarily just because he had, the points and the rebounds that he had tonight. What was impressive about it is he was in a take charge role tonight that I've not seen.
No
him.
hesitation, right?
It was exactly. Not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
So
and that's what you want.
Let's talk about somebody that I think is probably one of my favorite players in the league right now, who's not getting the kind of respect I think he deserves. Fred VanVleet.
Yeah,
man.
Freddie. Yeah. Amazing night for Fred, too. And this plays into this. I think I know where you're going with this, because this kind of plays into the contract talks we had with Kyle. Now, look, it's a long season. They got 81 more games to go. But the reason that we all know Fred is from last year's playoffs, right?
Showed up big.
He showed up big. He shows up huge tonight. What did he put up? 34.
34.
Yeah, he had 34 points.
Tied for the most points.
7 assists. 7 assists,
yeah.
too. I mean, he shot 12 of 18 from the field. He shot 5 of 7 from 3. So, I mean, look, he had a really good night, and he hits big shots. The thing here is that he's young and he plays point guard, right? And the guy you just paid another $30 million to, if you're going to keep him on the books, whether you do or not, you can play them both at the same time. Obviously, they did tonight, but you can build around Fred, you can build around Pascal, and you can use that money to go get somebody else. Or pay somebody more on your team that you feel good about, like Anunoby or even Norm Powell again. But
there you go.
Fred had a great night. I love watching him play. I feel like I'm unnecessarily kind of dumping on Lowry, and I hate to do that. I haven't seen much talk about that contract. I just saw it and was like, I understand that relationship would be strained, but I didn't get paying him the extra 30, especially when you've got Fred there who by all accounts, looks like he can lead this team and be a prolific scorer for this team and facilitator for this team.
Well, listen, if they keep playing like they played tonight, whatever. I mean, like, that's the thing. What if all three of them show up at equal capacity tonight? It's a blowout.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. But it didn't. It wasn't. How this sort of ended up is we take this game and it was back and forth. We hit third, fourth quarter. It's back and forth. Pelicans are hanging with the Raptors,
yep.
and we take it to overtime. And the first game of the season, we hit overtime. About the time we hit overtime, it was like the Raptors just sort of decided that they weren't going to miss anymore, and that's when your boy Lowry decided
he came to play, man, and he got him a win.
He came to play.
What do you think? What do you think as far as the people that were watching TNT tonight about like the scale of, oh, I'm so happy this really good game has gone into overtime versus I'm missing the first damn 8 minutes of the battle for LA? Because I was having that just like, I'm really enjoying this game.
I was mad.
Can we do picture or something? Like, damn, I want to watch this thing.
Right. Well, and so let's do the transition here, because I think that this is the key. This is what I found the most interesting. I think a lot of people are doing exactly what you think. We're watching this first game. We're like, come on, we want to go to LA. Yeah. When they transitioned from the end of that game to the LA game, I was shocked. I mean, I had to, like, my wife and I were sitting there watching the game, and Kelly says to me, she says, is there a different camera angle in this game? Everybody on this floor looks like a giant compared to the game we just watched. And the camera angle wasn't that much different. It literally, you go from Pelicans Raptors to the battle for LA, Clippers and the Lakers, and it just looks like giants are on the floor in LA.
It looks, and I really noticed that too. Obviously, I had seen them on paper and seen them some in the preseason, but the Lakers especially, like, I just get the feeling when I look at them, when I look at not only LeBron and AD, but when you look at McGee and Dwight Howard in there, it's like, all right, so like, we're not going to be as good defensively, but if anybody comes in here, we're going to try to stuff this stuff into the third row. And there is merit to that. I mean, McGee had a couple of blocks tonight. I think Dwight had a block tonight. And so, there is some defensive merit to that, but I agree, man. I kind of had the same thought. I was like, man, LA looks huge size-wise.
Monstrous. And, the first part of the game, they came out hard.
Yeah.
They came out hard, and they were fired up, and you could tell as the game starts to go on, we start to see, and I don't know if you saw this, but I mean, everybody I thought played really well. It was very entertaining. There was one dunk in particular that LeBron stuffed down where he gave a look at the end of it, and it was like, oh, there's LeBron.
Yeah.
Nobody better get in the way of that. And the look on the guy's face as he looks away before the dunk gets thrown down, it was beautiful. I have to look who he was actually dunking on. But
I think it was Lou.
They got out of the way.
And I think
it may have been Lou.
I think Sweet Lou got the last laugh there, just FYI. But
Lou played well tonight. I was very impressed with Lou. He had some key shots. But we get into the game, and overall, like, I was very impressed with Anthony Davis.
Yeah,
I felt like I hadn't seen Anthony play in a long time.
It's because you haven't, man. I mean, I felt that way too. And the guy's rested, and he looks healthy. You always worry about his health, but you really forget just how freaking good that guy is. I mean, he is just a freak in nature. And what did he? I think he had 25 and 10 tonight. I mean, that's
25 points, 10 rebounds.
Like nothing. I mean, that's if he averages that, he's an All NBA guy. I mean, you forget how good Anthony Davis is. I'm so glad that he's back. Whatever happened. It's too late now to make any fuss about it. It's just nice to see him playing ball again.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's one of those things where he did some things tonight that I forgot he could do. And I don't know that he could do it the last time that I saw him, but it was very impressive to watch. The one thing that I will say is we kind of came down the floor with this one, and we get into the later parts of the game. We very much have a game fourth quarter. Yeah. I mean, it's anybody's ball game. What kind of fell apart for the Lakers tonight was there were times when I felt like they didn't know who was supposed to be the leader to take them down the stretch.
You mean do you mean LeBron and AD? Or just anybody?
But mostly LeBron and AD.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. Like, LeBron had a couple times where I was like, okay, it's take charge time for LeBron.
Yeah.
And he came up with some big blocks. He came up with some big plays. It was great. But when we really started getting to the thick of it, where they could have pulled back when they started sort of, they started pulling away, the Clips did. it was interesting. I felt like they were sort of disorganized and they didn't know quite what to do. And I don't know, maybe I was just imagining this, but something felt a little disconnected. Now, you're putting them against any other team, maybe in the NBA right now, that does not matter.
No.
They would have pulled it together. But this is where you really have to look and you have to see what Kawhi Leonard does so well. That team, that Clippers team was locked in at the end.
Absolutely.
And it was killer instinct. And the things that Kawhi Leonard did tonight to sew this game up shows you, it was just like, oh, yeah, I remember that with Spurs.
Yeah.
I remember that with the Raptors last year. This is why he's so dangerous. And by the way, Kawhi's short a man tonight. I don't know if we're –
yeah, the guy who finished third in the MVP voting last year, Paul George. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's no Paul George. And they come out and they're at the very end of the game, it was over. I mean, there was no last shot. It was over. And, I thought that it was done in a way that just the way that Kawhi understands the game and how the game plays out for 4 quarters is amazing.
So I got some stats for you here, and you're gonna eat this
Hit
up.
me. Yep, okay? I want to hear
because this is what this game comes down to, and this is exactly what we've talked about it before the season started. Is that look? Can the Lakers certainly be an upper tier playoff team, even in the West, with just LeBron and AD? The answer is yes. Okay, we talked about AD's numbers. LeBron almost had a triple double tonight. He put up 18, 9 boards, and I think he had 8 assists. Okay, this came down to one thing and one thing only. It's depth, depth, depth. So listen to this.
Yeah.
Every single bench player that played for the Clippers tonight scored in double digits. Every single one scored in double digits. No bench players for the Lakers scored more than 6 points. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who played 27 minutes, the most minutes off the bench, I believe had 0 points. He had a terrible, terrible night. And so the concern here is look, I don't fault them because you have to remember the Clippers are a better team. Okay, they had a core there that made the playoffs last year without Kawhi. Okay, you got Patrick Beverley, who's one of the funnest people to watch. He's such a fly in the
What a night!
Yeah, I don't like watching it when he plays the Grizz because he just pisses me off. But listen to Bev's night. He played 31 minutes. He shot 0 for 5 from 3. He was 1 for 7 from the field. He had 2 points, 10 boards. He had 10 boards and 6 assists. That's one of the smallest guys on the floor. They've got Beverly. They've got our old boy, JaMychal Green, who's just an absolute dog who's going to go right at you. He's going to have some really good shooting nights sometimes too. They're a really good, deep team. And that's the difference between them and the Lakers right now.
I think that's interesting. You talk about like Patrick Beverly. You talk about his stats. And if you're just looking at the stats, today, tomorrow, you think, oh, he didn't have such a great game. You're watching that game live. That guy was a big part of why they won the game.
Where analytics fails, right? And I couldn't agree more.
That guy got in the heads of the Los Angeles Lakers.
He does it every night, man. I mean, he has made a career on it. He has made an absolute career on it. Another thing, too, is that if you're the Lakers, you have to have somewhat of a concern because Danny Green, who's a great player and an amazing shooter and has a ring. He got a ring with Kawhi last year, right? He had, I think it was 28 points. He was 10 for 14 from the field, and he was 7 for 9 from 3, which is just freaking ridiculous. He was on
unreal,
crazy streak. He shot almost 78% from 3 tonight, which is crazy. He's not going to do that every night. You've got to spread some of this around. And I think what the Lakers have to figure out is, Dwight is past his prime. I'm not really sure what's going on with Dwight, but what's going to be interesting to watch there is what happens with the center position between him and JaVale, okay? Yeah. Dwight played 19 minutes tonight. JaVale played 17. None of them had a big scoring night by any means. The boards for Dwight were there. I think he had 6, but they're still trying to figure out their roster. And it's one of those things where we've talked about it where I'm sure they would like to be able to do something closer to the deadline if this thing isn't working out and they are still so top heavy. But you're paying the 2 guys so much, you can only do so much. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they adjust their lineup, kind of what goes on throughout the year. But again, you're not going to get Danny Green putting up 30. I mean, that's not going to happen every night when you go out and play. It's just not going to happen at this point.
No, but what a night that he did have. And so that's kind of the thing is Kawhi came in tonight doing what Kawhi does. He comes in, he takes a team that's already good, and he makes them that much better. And
tonight.
I don't
30 points,
30 points,
5 assists, and he was just an absolute dead eye. I don't know of anybody. I mean, I had flashbacks to June. Do you know of anybody who hits a turnaround jumper better than him? I mean, it just
not that's playing right now.
Exactly. I mean, you just know it's going in. I mean, he's just kind of perfected that shot, and he's so fundamentally sound. It's just crazy. He's so good defensively. It's very hard kind of not to root for that guy. You know what I mean? He's just such a good basketball player.
It was just beautiful to watch. And, so tonight, that's the sort of the big storylines here are the Raptors aren't going to be terrible. I don't think anybody thought they were going to be terrible, but they've got a core that they can do a lot with. Yeah. And, being that they're in the East too, that's a whole other story, but that's good. The Pelicans, I was impressed with their play, especially without Zion tonight. They just came up short at the end in overtime, but they took this game to overtime with the team that played really, really well in the Raptors tonight. And then, battle for LA, we're going to be talking about this all year because these folks are going to be playing again, but also there's a good shot we're going to see them in later rounds. And I tell you what, as far as the more complete team tonight and the one that looked the best, it's definitely the Clips. And you're right. We're going to have to get some more depth on the Lakers. And, I'm a Lakers guy. I'm a Lakers fan. I did not like what I saw at the end tonight with just some of the disorganization. And like I said, it was just like, who's going to pull the trigger? And LeBron did not seem as comfortable tonight being that lead guy. And he started to do it, but then he kind of pulled out of it. And it's one of those things where someone's going to have to say, I'm the guy. There's guys on my team. We've got a great team, but I'm the guy when we get to this situation.
Right. And it was interesting how Vogel had them staggered because you'd see they would start off together. They would start the half together, and then one would go out, and then one would come back in, and then they finish the fourth together. That's going to be he's going to figure that out, and that part's going to get better to where he's going to maximize both the value of LeBron and AD. But you've also got to remember you got to keep these guys healthy, right? We've talked a lot about how many games is LeBron actually going to play, and how many games is AD going to play if he's going to be able to stay healthy. And man, if one of them go down for a month, I mean, right now you're looking around and you're saying who's going to put up some points here? I mean, who are we going to rely on? And so that's the concern. But again, when you have those two, if they're healthy, the Clippers, most people have picked them to be the best team in the league. They certainly look like one of the better teams in the league right now, if not the best. So, if the Lakers open up and they're playing the Grizz tonight or something, are we even having this conversation? Does it matter? But as far as the battle for LA goes, there's pretty clearly a better team in LA right now, and it's the Clippers. There's no doubt about it. Speaking of a good fit, I got to ask you this real quick because I know you love owner talk. Did you see Steve Ballmer? Did you see Ballmer in the crowd tonight?
I did see him once.
Did you see that he split his sleeve at the elbow? Is nobody going to bring this up?
No. I missed it. What he did? He spit it.
He's just so into it. I just love watching. This is so stupid, but I just love watching the guy. He had his hands on his head and his elbow was out. And I was like, what the hell is he doing? And the people around him are just like, yeah, this is just Steve. I love that guy. Good for him for fielding a good team in LA, man.
I just need to go sit by the guy. I got to get tickets to, and I got to be in the,
maybe worth the price of admission just to be next to him.
So anyways, those are the games tonight. We start off with a small opening night, two big games, but man, what big games they were, and they were really enjoyable to watch. Tomorrow, this is October 23rd. We're going to have lots of games happening. Which ones? I know the ones that I'm the most excited about tomorrow. Which ones are you the most excited about, Nick?
Yeah, let me look here.
I mean, for me, it's Celtics 76ers. Like that one, I am jazzed about.
Battle for the East,
of
right?
course.
Yeah.
I feel like that one's going to be good, but there's lots of games tomorrow that I think that we're going to see some very interesting things start to unfold that maybe we didn't expect. So
let me tell you what I'm feeling real quick. I'm going to be watching the Grizz and see, and honestly, I kind of want to see how that Miami Heat team looks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, because they've already they suspended Deion Waiters already for the first game, which makes me really laugh. But they've actually got an interesting thing going on there with Butler and the rookie Harrow and Bam Adebayo starting at center now. I'm interested to see that. I always want to see Dallas play because I love watching Luka. I want to see what Kristaps has, but they're playing the Wiz, and the Wiz just look tough. But the last one I'm going to pick is actually the late game, which is Denver-Portland. Both high Western Conference teams last year. I feel like Portland have they went to the Western Conference Finals this year, and if you look at what most people are predicting, it's like, nah, we're not really feeling them. And I feel like they've still got quite a bit to prove. And so I'm interested to see how Dame and CJ play tomorrow. And one of my favorite players to watch in the league is Jokic. I love watching Jokic for Denver, and so I'm definitely going to be tuned into that one tomorrow. Probably post Grizz and probably mad post Grizz, but it's going to be one of those years, buddy.
Yeah, it is, and it's sometimes your team just isn't good, and then sometimes several years in a row they're not good. But I'm also excited about I'm excited about what the Grizz watching Ja, so I'm going to watch that. And like I said, the Heat's going to be good. But yeah, I'm with you. The game that I'm most excited about has to be the late game, the 9 p.m. Nuggets Trailblazers. I think that's going to be good. So I'm sure that I'll be up tomorrow watching games, posting on Facebook like a goofball. If you happen to like to talk basketball, you want to talk smack about these games, we have a Facebook group that I would love for you to come in, talk basketball with us. We do this pretty much during the season. You're going to have us in there every single night. It's brand new, so we want you to jump in and join in. If you go to upshotpodcast.com, you can do that. And also, you can get show notes. You can listen to past shows. We've got a lot of really good stuff right now. This being the beginning of the season, make sure you check out the season preview that we put together. Top 10 games that we're excited about this year. Those 2 podcasts really big. Plus, if you're into the whole thing that's going on with China but don't really understand all of it yet, we've also got a great pod out there right now that talks about what's going on with the China thing and how that's going to potentially affect what is going on with the amount of money that the NBA has to spend on players in this year and next year. So you're going to see some interesting things happen with that in the next little bit. So that's all we got for tonight. Nick, you got anything else you want to add before we get out of here other than, Ballmer splitting his sleeve? I think that was awesome. I mean, we could always bring up a fun Jordan talking smack about existing play. No, we can save that for later.
Look, it's going to happen again, so it'll be fine. We'll just bring it up then. Hoops is back, baby. Let's get pumped.
Hoops is back.
That's all I got. Hoops is back, baby.
I love it. So if you love this, make sure you leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. And as I said earlier, make sure you go to upshotpodcast.com. You can get show notes there. You can sign up for email notifications. We'll send you all the biggest news in our digest. We try to do that. Every couple days, but at least once a week to get you up to speed if you've missed anything and get you pumped about what's coming up in this next week with the NBA. So we've got more overtime podcasts coming in, and we're going to be doing them late, staying up late, making sure that you get all that you need to know about what happened in the NBA. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you very, very soon.
You've been listening to the Upshot NBA podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure to click the subscribe button so you can get a new Upshot episode every week. And make sure to leave us a review on your podcast app as soon as you're done listening.